Hello, my name is Prashanti Video. I'm an herbalist, Ayurvedic practitioner, yogi, ethnopharmacologist, and the herbal facet of the original organic India crew. This herb journal today is about cognitive function and all the different ways that we can help ignite our cognitive function. There's many different things that we could talk about. For instance, what's the number one cause of the attenuation of cognitive function in so many different people? But that's going to be for a later herb journal. This herb journal is just about the 1, 2, 3s, just laying it out as an introduction to cognitive function. So here we are, optimizing cognitive function with yoga and Ayurveda. By the way, all these slides and the herb photos are copyright Prashanti Video. There is my teacher. A lot of this can be learned via these slides and presentations, but in the end, the best way to learn anything in the Vedic tradition is face-to-face, as my teacher always told me. So, today's topics, it's going to be part 1 of cognitive function, as I said. And it'll be the 1, 2, 3s, just the basics, which you'll learn a lot. Part 2 will be the number one cause of waning wit, like what's really making cognitive function be attenuated. We will, in the next section, the section 3, we will learn how you can really regrow nerves. A lot of what we talk about in cognitive function is the physiology, but of course that's based on a really healthy anatomy. Part 4, the yogas, all the different things that you can do, not just the herbs, for cognitive function, how emotions and cognitive function are related. It's really fascinating. And then the 2 types of memory that we have and the causes of memory loss. So this is the first part, cognitive functions, the 1, 2, 3s. And so here's, just what are cognitive functions, you may wonder. So of course there's like memory and acuity, there's like a sense of intelligence, but there's a lot more than that. It's like how long can you hold attention? How much can concepts shift? How adaptive can you be? How you can learn verbally and visually. All of these cognitive functions can be separated out through the senses as well. And then there's the executive functions. So these executive functions, very important. It's kind of like they're the royalty of cognitive function, because they are basically putting it all together. This is the ability to put all these different facets of cognitive function together in a cogent, coherent, coordinated control with, as I say here, goal-orientated schemes. It's it's putting it all together in a word. It's strategy, but depending on your quality, like if you tend to be kind of dense and destructive, that strategy will have one result. If you're agitated, it will have another. If you're clear and calm and balanced, it will have another. So this whole executive function, Homo sapiens, humans, it's a very, very new species relative. And we obviously haven't quite figured out how to be sustainable. And so this is where executive functions are a bit tricky and a bit dangerous, and why we have to know how to keep them balanced. This is one of the reasons why we have this presentation, this series of presentations. So the 1, 2, 3 of increasing cognitive abilities. Catabolic. This is kind of the opening, the clearing of the head and the mind, both the physiology and the anatomy, opening up the channels. Metabolic. This is the fire side of things, the triggering focus and igniting acuity and sharpness. And then the anabolic, improving the structure, integrity, and endurance. So if you look at these 3, the 1, 2, 3s, you see how movement is paramount in one, there's ignition in the next, and then structure in the anabolic. If you combine these, you'll see that the 1, 2, 3 starts showing up as what's called the doshas in Ayurveda, the vata, the pitta, and the kapha. The vata is all about the air, space, and movement. It's about clearing congestion, opening up the channels, allowing flow. The pitta is about the fire. It's about focus. You know, basically, if any time you have focus, that adds heat. It's just like if you focus a magnifying glass, suddenly that focus is hot. This is why it's kind of like pitta, fire element. And then the earth structure facet is the memory, the stability. As I said, it's a no-brainer unless it is. The cognitive functions, here we have that same picture again, and I'm going to use this picture to kind of illustrate these different facets from an energetic point of view. It's important to learn these things from an energetic point of view because it helps you predict, helps you establish them more, and helps you realize just what to do to optimize them. For instance, the coming in is the attention. This is, I have that kind of red and blue because it's both a fire and air phenomena. Then once there's a lot of attention, you start accumulating that attention. That attention starts accumulating as memory. And either episodic memory, which is the memory associated, it's kind of like autobiographical memory, which kind of establishes who you are. And then there's semantic memory, which is the background memory. This is a hill, and this is a tree, that kind of stuff. And this memory starts collecting as the structures in your mind, as the backdrop. So from this attention, and then from the memory, you start forming strategies of how to perform, of how to relate, how to act. And those are the executive functions. Finally, you need a healthy, open, clear space for this all to happen, and that is what we call clarity. This is that open, clear space. This is what some of the high-frequency herbs help us with. So the episodic memory, or the memory in general, this is like the earth element. The executive functions and the attention, more fire element, and the clarity, the openness, the expansion, is the more the air element. So the earth, that's more the kapha, the fire is the pitta, and then the air element is more the vata. So this is, this is a pretty good model at how things work, and we can use this model to figure out which herbs are best for cognitive function. First of all, clarity. 3 catabolic or clearing herb categories. Often, as I said, this is very air element based. So bitter, high frequency herbs like antioxidant rich, high frequency mind herbs like shankpushpi and bacopa and centella, also known as brahmi, they're fantastic for opening it up. But they can't necessarily be used alone, or put it this way, you might have to use them in conjunction with other herbs. Which other herbs? The fire and earth element, which we will get to. Another category of this high frequency catabolic clearing herbs are the bright pungent, the herbs where you just take a sip of it or you smell the essential oil and it just opens up your eyes, like the mint and the lemongrass. And then the other is these herbs which literally expand channels. For instance, the microvascular dilators, like ginkgo is famous for this, and yarrow, and brahmi as well, both bacopa and centella. When I say the word brahmi, by the way, brahmi refers to several different herbs, and the 2 main ones being bacopa and centella. 5 great herbs for clarity. Just that herb right there that you see that picture, what does that remind you of? There's a whole way, there's a facet of herbalism called the doctrine of signatures. And it says what an herb looks like just may give you a hint of what it's good for. And in this case, to me, that looks like a cross-section of the brain. And indeed, this particular herb, centella, helps with the communication between the hemispheres of the brain. So bacopa is one of the best herbs for clarity, used for millennia, and now that use has been confirmed. The use of all of these has been confirmed recently in the last 10-20 years by Western science as well. Shankpushpi, a lot of people say it's the best. A lot of doctors would say. Centella, that's also known as scoticola. This is the herb that's shown here. Tulsi, wonderful. And in both this category, the clarity category, and the focus category. It's one of the first reach herbs for this. And also the fact that it so lends itself to a tea is also very useful. Lotus, all the facets, especially the essential oil. And here's a quiz for you. Why are so many of these herbs considered quick energy herbs? Think about that. Here's some pictures. Just looking at these pictures makes me smile. On the left there is Bacopa monnieri. This particular Bacopa was grown by Brijnath Singh in the Organic India experimental farm in North India. And on the right there is some centella, some Gordicola. Focus and acuity. So focus that tends to be more fire element phenomena. Of course, this is, everything I'm saying here, the 1, 2, 3s, this is a model, and no model is exactly right. It's just models help us work with these herbs and work meaningfully. So there's, take it with a grain of salt. But this model works quite well. It's all about discriminating, digestion, transformation. The fire element is all about transformational energy. This is what metabolism is all about. So there's our avatar. It's a great way watching all of these. The Avatar series, I think there's probably 100 of them. It's a great way to learn about the different elements and the powers of different elements, and also the importance of being able to master in these elements. So as far as focus and acuity, we need to digest things, for instance, and realize that digestion is pretty much a single phenomenon that just works on a lot of different levels. For instance, digesting calculus, or emotions, or hopefully not cheeseburgers, but you never know. So working on all levels of digestion at once is good and will help the mental acuity as well. This is why you have to watch what you eat. When you really want to have a sharp mind, you just can't eat anything. You have to make sure you eat something that's digestible. And a lot of these herbs that help with mental acuity also help with digesting at other levels. So 3 focus acuity herb categories. 1, sharp, bright, metabolic herbs. These kind of like slightly fiery, pungent herbs. Tulsi, off the charts, whether that's a tea or capsules or essential oil. It's one of the all-around best herbs, as I said. Other ones are tis, which is one of the few non-poisonous aconites. It's Aconitum heterophyllum. It's classic for this. Trikatu is another one. Trikatu literally means the 3 pungents, and it is comprised of 1/3 ginger, 1/3 pipali, which is long pepper, and 1/3 black pepper. Then another category is the sharp triggering aromatics, like oregano, the bay, and rosemary. Even lavender, and one might think that lavender isn't a sharp triggering aromatic, but I put it there intentionally just to show you that essential oils in general, whether they're soft, kind oils, they still are very concentrated, and that concentration tends to make them sharp. And then finally, in the 3rd category is all the caffeine herbs. There's not that many herbs in the world that have caffeine, but here's a few, like coffee and camellia, which is like white, green, and black tea. And the ilex herbs, the mate and the guayusa, and then the guarana. The deal with these caffeine herbs, is yes, they help increase focus, but they tend to be hard on the adrenals, and it's simply not sustainable. So it's not like I'd recommend that. The man in the picture on the right, by the way, his name is Kailash. He was the first of our Tulsi farmers. He's a beautiful dear man, and he's actually standing there in a field of Krishna Tulsi, which means dark Tulsi. Here's some wonderful focus and acuity herbs. The one on the left is a wild oregano that grows up in the Himalayas. In fact, in the Himalayas, they call it Himalayan Tulsi. And then on the right there's some Krishna Tulsi. 5 great herbs for focus and acuity. Again, Tulsi, as I mentioned, a good one for many reasons. A lot of these herbs that have that ability to sharpen the mind, but also that are adaptogenic. These are the ones that we want to take. Trikatu, as I said, the three pungents: ginger, black pepper, long pepper. Fantastic for physical as well as intellectual acuity. Rosemary. This one of the reasons I put rosemary here is that it so lends itself, like tulsi, to be an essential oil. You can make a tea out of it. You make shampoos, creams, oils. It's one of these herbs that's really easily used in a lot of different ways. And then the mints also can be used in a lot of different ways. And tulsi, by the way, I put tulsi in creams, in oils. I use tulsi all the time. Honorable mention here, a teas again, and then a really spicy chai can help with focus and acuity, because there's a lot of these herbs are in there. Memory. Two types of memory. One is episodic memory, which is more autobiographical memory that defines, as I say, the individual walking on the path, walking on memory lane. But then there's semantic memory, which is the memory, which is the contextual memory, the background memory, which is kind of like the path itself. It's kind of interesting. And this is a whole other thing to talk about, and we will talk about it. But some memory loss is actually memory transformation from episodic memory blending into semantic memories. It can be a beautiful thing, especially when you start realizing that, as they say, the path is the journey. Lot to be said about that, but in a later video journal. 3 memory herbal categories. 1, the earth element adaptogenic roots. As I said, a lot of the memory is you require the stability for the memory, and that is given to us by some of these earth element adaptogens, the ashwagandha, the eleuthero, the astragalus, the rhodiola. Also part of this is the omega oil seeds. You need these because just as a lot of these earth element adaptogens are the intelligence that you need to have a healthy brain, the raw materials of that brain, the fatty acids, come a lot from our omega oil seeds, like the flax, the hemp, the borage, evening primrose, and another one classic used in Ayurveda is called Jyotish Mati, those berries on the right. These are celestious berries, but this is a relative to it. I actually took this photo in, where was it? Upstate New York last winter. So, and then the third category is neuron growth amplifiers. There's a lot of herbs that can actually increase the growth of neurons, the axon side, the dendrites, and then the myelin sheath. But of course, you need the omega oils to go with that. Here's a couple, 3 different memory support herbs. That one on the left is a photo of ashwagandha that I took in Chitrakoot. And then on the right I found some bacopa and some centella growing right together. They often grow together. And that was in a place called Singapore in central India. So you can say, okay, Prashanti, great theory, but just give me a pill already. So whatever you take, when you take these herbs, make sure they're sustainable, organic, biodynamic, and fair trade. Here's some examples. Memory. This is a great formula to bring the clarity. Ayurvedically, you'd call that the prana in. Tulsi, as I said, off the charts in so many different ways. This is a great formula to ensure you have the proper focus as a capsule, essential oil, or as a tea. Tejas. Ashwagandha. This is the very good at supporting memory and supporting a deep, grounded, enduring memory. So how to take this? Take 1 to 2 capsules of each 2 times daily. Great taken with Tulsi Brahmi tea or Tulsi ginger tea, and also eat a lot of turmeric, either the turmeric capsules, turmeric fresh juice, or put turmeric in your smoothies and such things. Then whenever you need a little boost, there's this joy formula that Dr. John Juilliard helped us formulate. It's basically 4 cognitive adaptogens that we've talked about, the Brahmi, the Shank-Pushpi, and the Tulsi, and the Ashwagandha, things like this. And you can take 2 of these, 1, 2, 3, or 4, whenever you need a boost. It really works. People really tend to love this formula. So the next thing that we will cover is the numero uno cause of waning wit. So due to dozens of categories of stressors and a pronounced lack of blisters, due to a lack of skillfulness in anti-stress adaptogens or strategies, due to a lack of deep intelligence, today's number 1 cause of ailing acuity is, we will cover that in the next video journal on cognitive function. There you have it. Introduction to cognitive function. I hope you've enjoyed this, and check back for many more journals to come. So thank you, and fare thee well.